Hi there, Cancer. This is your weekly reading for the week of November 30th. I hope you had a wonderful holiday and you're looking forward to more fun this holiday season. This is an interesting week because we start off with the energy of the Sun in Sagittarius squaring Neptune in Pisces. That is your solar sixth and your solar ninth house. So there could be the idea that we're starting right off the bat with some legal issues that might be more emotional entanglements than anything. Could be something from the past that still isn't worked out yet. And again, it's just one of these things that can't be really changed. It's somewhat irrevocable. But at this point, I think it would better serve you to just get the finalities out of the way, get the I's dotted and the T's crossed, and try to not bring this energy with you into the next year, although some of you will have some lingering sort of financial entanglement that has to do with the Internal Revenue Service here in the United States. It could be a taxation issue, something such as this. Also starting off with the energy that was the Sun in Sagittarius conjunct Saturn in Sagittarius. Also, again, your solar sixth house. There could have been some issues related to who's really in control when it comes to work. Are you the boss or are you not the boss? Are you getting paid an employee's wages and yet you're managing a whole lot of things? And at what point does that end? At what point is the line drawn? Is it in the sand? Is it in concrete? These are the things you've probably been dealing with. And if you have been directly affected, such as those examples I gave, which would by degree make you directly affected, then you know what I'm talking about. It will begin to clear up here as we move forward. And of course, try to wrap up things as much as you can. Take the emotion out of it. We do have, I want to warn you, a full moon in Cancer on December 25th. So it will just heighten the emotions and make things more difficult. So you've got a whole month now to plan where you want to be, who you want to be with, to keep it calm, appropriate, and comfortable, right? What's the thing that I keep telling people? I use the most dysfunctional ideas like relatives drinking, people getting involved in, downing packs of beers, because what is worse than having a bunch of family members drunk on a holiday? It's really not something that in the civilized world we equate to being a Norman Rockwell holiday. But remember, this is what I tell people: nothing wrong with having bottles of Martinelli sparkling cider, which now comes in different flavors. And no, I'm not being paid for pimping a product. I'm just telling you, you have those chilled, you have them ready to go, and then you can always let people know in advance that you don't really want that around and that you don't need that in the environment, right? It's the same thing we do when we don't want people smoking in our homes. We tell them, hey, look, especially if you're a former smoker, right? Like, I don't want that near me. It's not what I want to smell. So if you have to smoke, you got to go outside, and Febreze on the way in. And so there are things that you might be able to put in advance, some ability to control the situation by letting people know what you need. And if you don't want drunk people or showing up at your house for the holidays, and you warn them in advance, and they can choose to not come over. So with that said, Cancer, the card that you've drawn for Monday is the Judgment card in reverse. This could indicate that you're feeling somewhat like things have not gone your way, and that maybe you could be feeling that the universe is conspiring to wreck you. That's really not the case. The Judgment card is somewhat irrevocable. It cannot be negotiated. It is now the product result of everything that we have created up to this point, right? It doesn't have to be of biblical proportions. Bible stories are great, but a lot of them can be scary, and this isn't really what this card connotes. This is a card that more or less indicates that we do reap what we sow, that we are judged according to our works, that even by extension, we are the company we keep. And with that said, of course, you need to know what those definitions are in your life so that you can know what you want to do with them here on out in the future. Now, with that said, since we know we're coming off of this square and this conjunct energy with Sun in Sagittarius and squaring Neptune, and with the conjunction to Saturn, it just is what it is by now. We need to just move forward and let those things work themselves out. Try to remove the emotion from it. I know that's not easy for you, Moonchild, but just try to look at things from a very black and white point of view. If you were objective, how would you direct the situation is a good way to look at it. Tuesday, we've got the Four of Swords, which is a card that indicates it would be a good time to kind of lie low, go slow, leave things as they are, contemplate, reflect. Any time that we set aside for introspection is time that we're giving to ourselves to improve the quality of our lives and improving our own personalities, working with the flotsam and jetsam that seems to stick around the peripheral, even though we're done with situations. So work on yourself for a little while. Give yourself a little break. Also here on Tuesday, Mercury in Sagittarius is trining Uranus in Aries. Aries being your solar 10th house could indicate that there might be some luck associated with communications about work. Maybe you've got a good bonus coming to you. Maybe there isn't good news about a bonus, but you're going to get a gift card and you can get lots of turkeys, and the groceries and the things that you want to have your holiday dinner and to decorate your home for festivities. Okay, so don't feel too bad, because I would prefer a gift card over getting a financial bonus, because then that way I don't have to pay taxes on it. So also here on Tuesday, we got Mercury and Sagittarius squaring Chiron and Pisces. So Pisces is your solar ninth house. And again, this obstacle, as it were, has something to do with the legal issue that might be related to the result of a divorce, a separation, some kind of a business partnership, the ending or disseminating of information that goes out to try to affect the same, to bring closure to something that doesn't seem to quite get there very easily. Okay, we're considering that Mercury is in your 6th house and that we've got Chiron in your 9th house. Now it's stationed direct and it's moving forward now. So there can be some healing here, if only for the sake of clarification, so that you know where you stand. Mercury in Sagittarius, 6th house, Apollo in Libra. Libra being your solar 4th house of house and home says that there is an opportunity here to be the leader that you want in your own family, to maybe take control, to redirect a family if it's gone off the rails to a degree. So this doesn't mean that you have to put on the Viking kind of warrior hat and, go crazy at people, but this is more about taking the lead to help create, with a genteel touch, harmony in the home that is probably very sorely needed by here in this area of your life that has been difficult here. Of course, I acknowledge that, but it does need a gentle touch. It doesn't need to be brusque. Saturn in Sagittarius, 6th house, Ceres in Aquarius, and Ceres in Aquarius is in your 8th house, which is the house of death, transformation, taxes, the IRS man. This is also where you've got the results of marriages, partnerships that are somewhat committed. Obviously, these are not dating type relationships, and this could be where the end of the power struggle takes place in the final stands that people make when their divorces have been over for some time, for example, the flavor of this, but still there are some issues that don't just go away, right? We usually see this when children in divorces are under 18 years old, or they're 18 years old and they're in college still. Of course, they'll be there for, in most cases, it could take a decade for people that are getting advanced degrees. And so that kind of keeps the relationship from coming apart completely, although it doesn't have to be as sticky as what other people thinks it is. You can communicate with your ex in ways that are not going to be overdone or too much of or too involved. Just handle the details like you would with any other business negotiation. Your kids will appreciate this because they really don't want to have to deal with this either. Okay, it's really hard for people to understand who's where and who's in what corner, what are people are doing. If the definitions of what the parents' new relationship is, doesn't mean that all of you are going to be dealing with divorces at this time of year. This is more like the flotsam and jetsam that needs to be sorted out, the minutia that needs to find its pigeonhole as it relates to these former partnerships. And it doesn't have to be a marriage. It could have been a living arrangement that was long-term and committed. On Wednesday, we have the star in reverse, and the star in reverse is talking about things that you hoped would have been in place by now, maybe some fond wishes and dreams that you hoped would have come to fruition haven't really come to be, and you may be feeling bad about this. It doesn't mean there isn't time for hope, Cancer, and it doesn't mean that all hope is lost. Sometimes to make a dream come true, we have to rework the blueprint so that we know what exactly are we asking for. Is it really in line with our greater good? Is it really conducive or congruent to what we really need? Look at how people end up in relationships, and I've been there before, where we get into a relationship with somebody that is more or less begging us to be in one, and then we don't know how to get rid of this or how to confront it to say, you know what, I didn't know that this was going to be as codependent as it is. And then some people get their feelings hurt in the process, but this is the way that we learn to, kind of stick with people that are more or less on our same wavelength. It doesn't have to be about class and about any other distinction that sometimes hurts other people's feelings, but it is more about knowing what kind of people are better suited for each other. So maybe you haven't been hanging out with the people that are appropriately suited. Maybe you got friends that are too young for you. Maybe you've got friends that are too old for you. So maybe this is somewhere where you need to look at and retool and rethink what it is that you've been trying so hard to bring to fruition, but maybe it wasn't meant to be because there's some small details detail that needs to be reworked, retooled, just adjusted to a degree. Mercury in Sagittarius is opposing Psyche in Gemini, Gemini being your solar 12th house. So there's something about transformation that's coming in a form that is related to a past life situation, and or it could really be a relationship or an interaction with somebody in this present and conscious lifetime that you're experiencing, and maybe needing to transform this energy of what was it, what did you hope it would have been, why didn't it work, and for the last time identifying it, putting a label on it, putting it in a storage box, putting the storage box inside of a concrete tomb, and just locking it down for the last time. Understand that sometimes, no matter what it is that we were hoping would change our lives or make things better, sometimes a transformation does come through a painful realization. But that right there, my friend, is what development and maturity is made of. It doesn't come easily for a reason. Thursday, we have the Page of Pentacles here, and it could be talking about an opportunity or maybe a bonus being smaller than you thought it was going to be, and you thought that there would be more work this winter, and maybe your work is seasonal in some way. And so it could also represent actually a child who might be one of the earth signs. So Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, or somebody who has those traits or traits apparent. And in this case, if the issue really is about news of a financial thing, nature, such as a bonus or something, or a return, a refund, even a benefit at work that doesn't come the way you wanted it to be. Again, don't let this ruin your holidays, because holidays are not all about Christmas shopping and giving gifts to all of the bratlings and to shut up your sister-in-law. It has nothing to do with this. This is about the spirit of communion, of being with family, whether they are your blood relatives, your DNA genetic material sharing family members, or just the dogs in the pound that you take care of. It doesn't really matter. It's who you choose to be with that becomes family at that point. Thursday is a little bit contentious because we have Mercury in Sagittarius semi-sextiling Bacchus in Capricorn. And while this energy can help us move things forward by envisioning a better future, the escapist kind of attitude can show up. So again, I implore you, keep the alcohol out of it. Save a glass of champagne for New Year's Eve. Save a glass of wine for a toast, and then, get rid of that bottle. I have one bottle for everybody in the house to toast. And then just make sure that this doesn't become some kind of hedonistic, party mess that's going to be embarrassing and difficult to do the walk of shame of tomorrow morning. I really don't see it being anything like that bad, but it looks more like the potential for somebody, or maybe if it's a whole clan of people. Maybe you're married into a family and they're all drunks or something, and you're thinking, Jesus Christ, these people can't even be together without drinking. There's something wrong, so maybe there's a way for you to claim explosive diarrhea and you don't have to be there. It's kind of hard if you're married into a family like that. Thank God I've never been. One of my ex-husbands was from Wisconsin. Half of them were Dutch, and they were not the proverbial. Have you ever heard those stories about the drunk people in Wisconsin? And if you watch crime shows, there's a lot of weirdness that happens there. But, not everybody is like that. So no, not everybody is a barfly, and not everybody, just because the whole family looks like they're a bunch of drunks, it doesn't mean that there isn't some redeeming quality about them. But I suggest with this kind of volatile energy this month, especially with that full moon in Cancer at the end of the month, if people are going to be drinking, and how Aunt Jo gets when she drinks, and she doesn't have like a little tiny lady teacup size of a drink of wine. She's like chugging beer and stuff at a bar. You might want to find a way to deal with this in advance. Again, you're being given that kind of notice so that you can make an adjustment, because Bacchus is giving you that kind of warning, like, look, there's a potential here for something to get out of control. Mercury in Sagittarius is trining Minerva and Leo, Leo being your solar second house of income. So again, there's here some wisdom that you can learn from either the way that things went, that you were happy with financially in your work and in your income sector, or in the way that it didn't go, that you're saying, you know what, next year it's not going to be this way because this is the last time this happens. Also, Mercury in Sagittarius will sextile Cupid in Libra, and Libra being your solar fourth house. So there is maybe some fun to be had that might not be long-standing or permanent, but there is a good time to be had on the home front. So maybe it's a good time for you this week to spend some more time at home, enjoying the company of your family and friends, and not necessarily expecting, if you meet somebody through a friend of a friend, it probably doesn't have any longevity to it. So hey, if you don't have to do the walk of shame, then there's nothing you need to worry about. They can be your friend, and if you don't go intimate with them, then no big deal. Another friend to go bowling with. Friday, we've got the Seven of Swords in reverse, and this is a card that indicates that you might have one of those situations where somebody in your family or in your tribe, in your realm, or you has loose lips and they're about to sink ships. There's something here that needs to be kept on the low down, And yes, I'm going to admit it that there could be somebody keeping a secret from you. If it has to do with a romantic partner, I can see how that could be an issue, but I would rather know that somebody's lying to me than not know, and then that way we can just deal with it right while the iron is hot. So in this case, on Friday, we've got Mercury in Sagittarius, which squares Jupiter in Virgo, Virgo being your solar third house, Pisces being across the sky in the ninth. We know that there is a little bit of a potential here for a little miscommunication to turn into a big one. And it might have to do with the hours that you're working at work. It might have to do with all of the volunteer time that you or somebody close to you spends on a non-paid job where you're volunteering to do something like, and it could be anything from humanitarian to let's call it a hobby, okay? Where you've got some hobby that takes you away from home. Well, that needs to be discussed because it looks like either you or the person next to you does not like this, that you're gone all the time doing something that's a hobby, really, and that you think that it's help that you're giving to somebody. Somebody else thinks you're being taken advantage of, or vice versa, and then it doesn't go very well. But remember, even getting to discussions with people that aren't that smooth, even if the conversations are somewhat bumpy, they do serve to clear the air. And sometimes that's all we really need to do, is to get like an understanding, like, oh wow, I didn't know that you didn't like the fact that I go volunteer at the horse track, every Sunday and a couple times a week. And that person says, yes, I mean, haven't you noticed you're gone all the time? You don't get paid for this. And then on our time together, you're not even there. Maybe the opportunity for you to say that you'd rather be single, or that you really need to be single if there are some pastimes that you engage in, and that you really can't have that casual relationship with this person who doesn't like it, or vice versa. And that's okay. Defining the situation is half the battle. Oh, my puppy's having a nightmare. Come here, sweetheart. Come here. Hey. Come here, honey. Are you sad? I'm so sorry. She's having a nightmare over there. So on Friday, the card that we've just read for the Seven of Swords in reverse is accompanied by Mercury in Sagittarius squaring the Jupiter in Virgo, but I want to also remind you that Venus slips into Scorpio, which, could make for some nice pastimes with maybe a new romantic interest. Maybe you're like me and you just don't really commit 100% to anybody because you don't have enough time, or, whatever it is. Maybe those relationships, especially since we've had Cupid in Libra, that speaks to maybe having some little romantic type of relationships where we go out for dinner and we flirt with each other, but that's it. That might be better for you so that you don't get over involved in somebody whose life probably isn't congruent to yours. This is about the time of year that I was telling just about everybody, of course, in different degrees, varying degrees, and in different sectors for people, that at the end of this year, I'm saying, well, let's just see who you're out at different parties with, because anybody who got romantically committed earlier this year probably wasn't going to make it through this year anyway. So let's just see how it goes. And remember that Venus in Scorpio will help to sweeten that a little bit, but you or another person is going to be really investigating what you're made of and who you are. And they could be searching you out and checking out who you are on the internet to make sure that you're not some catfish, right? On Saturday, we've got the Ten of Pentacles. So I know that the hope and the dream is alive, that you're looking for the hope one day, the potentials for having a lovely family, or maybe this is the family that you belong to, decent people. No, there's no drunken barroom brawls, like maybe you've got a really nice family, and that's something that you can look forward to, somebody that you can really identify with, and it is your own family. Maybe that is really where you need to invest your time this week here. And on Sunday, we have the Knight of Pentacles, which is the indication that somebody could have another job of offer to you. Maybe they've got something to bring to the table, like, hey, look, I've got this job. I can't do it by myself. We'd have to go to the Dakotas where it's freezing and everybody just freezes to death and looks like statues, and we wear heated suits. Maybe somebody's got an opportunity here for you to pick up some extra money. The only thing to keep in mind is that the Sun in Sagittarius, sextile Mars in Libra being your fourth house, you have to make sure that this would be okay with the people at home, your family. They have to be considered in this, because this is where we see people get a little bit irritated if their families are not really functioning like a family. I have clients here and there will have different situations similar to this that will say, what's the good of being married if my husband is gone all the time? Well, touche, then maybe find another husband. Sun in Sagittarius will semi-sextile Pluto and Capricorn with this at the same time, telling us that there could be a deal, maybe some kind of a temporary job or something that makes you a little bit of money that you can get involved with. Again, make sure that you've got all of your irons in the fire and all of the tools identified, because there could be more to this that you don't realize was going to be more involved than you thought, or you find out later if somebody is enticing you to do this, that if you don't get it done by this date or it doesn't perform a certain way, that you're not going to get paid what you thought you'd get paid. Also, with Mercury and Sagittarius squaring Hygeia in Virgo, we've got the idea here again that we need to prevent problems from coming up to begin with. So again, communicate to your family what your intentions are, or ask your family members or your significant other to give you feedback before you commit to this. Not everybody's as dumb as I'm making it sound, okay? I know some of you are like, Rita, I'm not in kindergarten. I know all of the above, and I don't speak in single syllable, sentences, but I'm just saying I got to put it out there for a lot of you to know, because look, sometimes we could miss something, right? I don't mean any offense. Mars and Libra squaring Pluto and Capricorn is an indication again that we have to just make sure that the home and the family are balanced, and maybe this is where you can find a truce if there was a problem that just hasn't seemed too easy to repair. And with that said, my friends, I love you all. I'm having a really good time this time of year. I get to travel and see people that I love as well, and to figure out where I'm going to be is not always easy, but I'm here with you at this moment in time, and for that I'm grateful. Have a wonderful, wonderful week.